welcome to ENI UK and Europe edition. I'm Giancarlo Matera, reporting from London, and we'll be bringing you the news reports from the United Kingdom and Europe this week. We also have with us live reporters on standby, ready with their reports. In today's show, half of England is now under tougher virus restrictions. EU leaders tell London to budge on the post-Brexit deal, drawing anger from the UK. France reinforces its seasonal flu vaccine campaign, and a World War II bomb explodes during a defusal operation in Poland. We also have our live reports, joined by Love and Season, on how Britain's city of Liverpool is the only area with the strictest third tier of the new anti-coronavirus restrictions. Also joining us, we have Ashley Espiritu on how the UK's National Trust has cut 1,300 jobs. From EBC Spain, a report from Lynn Tumbaga Diaz on how Filipinos in Barcelona are coping with the financial challenges in times of pandemic. And we're joined also live by Mian Glauser from EBC Switzerland on how the Iglesia de Cristo youth members hold an online concert in Belgium, France, Monaco, and Switzerland. For our EBC Sports report this week, an incredible honor as towering Lewis Hamilton wins the Eiffel Grand Prix and equal Michael Schumacher's record. Then we will end today's show as always with our view from a window, this week from the port of Hamburg. But first, our news headlines this week. Roughly half of England is now under tougher coronavirus restrictions after the government on Thursday announced more stringent measures for London and 7 other areas to try to cut surging number of cases. But as ministers tightened the screw on social interaction to cut close contact transmission, they sparked a furious row with leaders in northwest England, where infection rates are at its highest. Talks broke down over the level of financial support available for people and businesses affected by plans for even tougher action. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham accused the government of being willing to sacrifice jobs and businesses here to try and save them elsewhere. Jobs, lives, businesses are at stake, but the packages of support is just not good enough. Tighter restrictions that come into force in 8 new areas on Saturday ban households mixing indoors, limit groups meeting outside to 6, and advise against non-essential travel. Some 9 million residents will be affected in London and more than 2 million others in parts of southeast and the Midlands, the north and the northwest. But taking into account swaths of mainly northern England already under restrictions, the total rises to just over 28 million people, more than half of England's 56 million population. Large parts of Scotland and Wales and the whole of Northern Ireland are also subject to curbs, including closures of pubs and other hospitality venues. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, however, has refused mounting political and scientific pressure to impose a 2-week circuit breaker national lockdown. Instead, he favors a targeted local 3-tier alert system based on infection rates, which are not evenly spread across the country. On Thursday, Britain recorded nearly 19,000 new positive cases across the United Kingdom, while the number of deaths, 138, was in triple digits for the 3rd day running. The announcement means London, Essex, and Elmbridge in southeast England are now at the high level 2 of the tiered system. Also on the list are northeast Derbyshire, Chesterfield, Borough-in-Furness in the northwest, and the northern city of York. European leaders now are on Thursday demanding Britain give ground on the fair trade rules to unblock the stalled post-Brexit negotiation, angering London and putting the fate of the talks in jeopardy. The 27 European leaders arrived for a summit in Brussels, expressing cautious optimism, but in their written conclusion, urged the European Union and its member states to step up preparations for a chaotic no-deal exit. Their calls for urgency were balanced, however, by an invitation that Britain keep talking next week in London and in Brussels the week after that. The invite comes after a warning by Prime Minister Boris Johnson that he could walk away from the negotiations unless the results of the summit pointed to a breakthrough. The EU never recognized his deadline, and in their conclusion, put that the onus on Johnson to rescue a deal as time runs out. In an unusual testy tweet, the UK's Frost said he was disappointed by the summit conclusions, underlying that no longer committed to working intensively to reach a future partnership, as had been earlier promised. Frost also scoffed at the EU's charge that only Britain should budge, calling it an unusual approach to conducting a negotiation. Boris Johnson would decide his next move on Friday. Europe's three main concerns are agreeing on the rules of fair competition, how these rules will be policed, and securing access to UK waters for the EU fishing fleets. Britain wants to reassert sovereignty over its waters and refuses EU legal oversight over the deal, insisting it wants a simple trade deal the kind the EU has signed with Canada. Brussels, in turn, stressed that Britain's economy is far more integrated with and closer to the EU's than it is to Canada's, and that its single market must be protected from a British backlash. As France sees a spike in the number of new daily cases of COVID-19, the seasonal flu campaign in the country that started this week comes with a strong emphasis on the need to protect the most vulnerable and also the people who take care of them. From this week until the end of November, the Ministry of Health will prioritize the vaccination of the population with a high risk of developing severe forms of complications of the flu, of hospital care workers and people living at the high-risk population. These are not only people aged 65 and above, but also people with chronic medical conditions, pregnant women, and even people suffering from obesity. The authorities consider it essential to vaccinate the most vulnerable because these groups are people also carry a higher risk of developing serious COVID-19 complications. The campaign will continue until the end of January 2021 in mainland France. In our next story, a bomb that failed to explode during World War II went off in northwest Poland earlier this week. Discovered last year, the device was dropped by the UK's Royal Air Force in 1945 during an attack at a Nazi warship. The device, called Tallboy or earthquake bomb, was designed to cause destruction by exploding underground and triggering shockwaves. More than 6 meters long and loaded with 2.4 tons of explosive, the bomb was discovered at a depth of 12 meters in the channel near the Baltic Sea. The plan was to burn the explosive charge without causing a detonation, but things did not go as planned when the deflagration process turned into a detonation. A Polish Navy spokesperson did warn about the delicate nature of the defusal operation because even a minor vibration could cause a detonation. 750 local residents within an area of 2.5 kilometers from the site were asked to evacuate as a precautionary measure. The explosion did not cause injuries, fatalities, nor damage to the infrastructure in the area. Time for a break now, but please come back for more ENI UK and Europe edition.
Talagang napapawawa ko.
Yung performance mo was very powerful, ang linis ng galaw mo.
Grabe yung connection nyo. As in, para kayo nagbabibrate papunta sa akin.
Papatunayan ng ating mga kalahok na when it comes to dancing, ay hindi laging totoo ang phrase na strength in numbers. It's their solo mission to own and dominate our TNG stage with their unique style. This is Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Dance Edition.
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe edition. Now for some interesting stories from around the United Kingdom. Joining us today is Love and Season to tell us more on how the city of Liverpool, home of the Beatles, is facing the current pandemic. Hello, Love Ann.
Hi, Giancarlo, and thank you. So Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a three-tiered system categorizing areas of England by rates of infection to try to simplify a complex web of local restrictions. The northwest city of Liverpool is the first to be placed at a very high risk and will see a ban on household mixing and pub closures from Wednesday for at least 4 weeks. As part of a new strategy to tackle a surge in coronavirus cases, inter-household mixing will be banned indoors and in private gardens, while pubs, bars, gyms will close from Wednesday in Liverpool, which has a population of about 1.5 million. Other areas of England will be classed either as medium, in which current nationwide rules limiting social gatherings to 6 will apply, or high, where different households are banned from mixing indoors. While whole swaths of northern England already facing local restrictions will automatically enter the high-risk tier. People will be advised not to travel in and out of these areas. Now let's hear what the residents think about this move.
I think, we had no choice. We had to go into this lockdown. We had to go into the third band. There's no choice. Boris was going to put it as in it and no matter what. So you can only trial it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, I don't know. We have to come up with another solution.
I think it's a huge overreaction. I just don't think there's any need for such drastic steps.
Yeah. And I think Liverpool is not the worst place, according to the news anyway. So why they've chosen to shut down Liverpool rather than places like Nottingham, which is far worse. Or Newcastle, or Manchester. I don't know. It just seems a shame for Liverpool.
I think basically they've had to start with somewhere, and infection rates are high. Hospitals are getting full. There's nothing more to say about that. Every city's going to end up the same.
Johnson addressed the nation to explain the decision. He earlier told MPs that he could not allow COVID-19 to let rip and risk the death toll, the highest in Europe at almost 43,000, spiraling even higher. Now, Britain on Tuesday announced 143 further deaths of people testing positive for the virus, the first time the daily announced toll has exceeded 100 since July. The number of cases has quadrupled in the last 3 weeks. There are now more people in hospitals with COVID than when we went into lockdown on March 23, said Johnson, who has faced criticism for his handling of the outbreak. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Lavan. Can we ask, how is the government preparing the hospitals across the country for this second wave of COVID-19 patient admission?
Well, earlier, the state-run National Health Service, NHS, announced that 3 field hospitals across northern England in Manchester, Sunderland, and Harrogate would be mobilized to accept new patients. They are among a string of temporary hospitals put up by the military in conference centers. Testing for hospital staffs is also being stepped up in high-risk areas, as health officials warn that infection rates were rising across the country and in all age ranges, not just the young.
Giancarlo, what is the general feeling, though, from the UK, the public, in these cases where there's new total lockdowns?
Well, the British public is mixed in their opinions, so ranging from wanting the government to apply even tighter measures to some even for calling out for no further lockdowns at all. So the one thing is sure, and that is the longer the pandemic is around, the more frustrations it will bring for everyone, and this can lead to civil unrest. The government is in a very difficult position of striking a balance between public health and the economy, with us spending over 1.5 times the normal national spend in this area already this year. So something that generations to come will have to face. But there is a common goal, however, to get the infection rate under control, and that will mean the effort and responsibility will have to come from everyone. Giancarlo?
Thank you, Lavan, and thank you again for joining us this week.
Thank you, Giancarlo, for having me. I'm Love Ann Season, reporting from London, United Kingdom. We live in interesting times.
Now for some more interesting stories from the United Kingdom. We go to Ashley Espiritu, who will report on more than 1,000 jobs being cut according to the UK Heritage and Conservation Charity and the National Trust due to the pandemic. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, Giancarlo, thank you. UK heritage and conservation charity, the National Trust, on Thursday said it will cut 1,300 jobs because of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The cut, which represents just over 1/10 of its workforce, come as the organisation looks to make annual savings of £100 million, $130 million and €110 million. In July, it warned 1,200 jobs could go, and after consultations, now says it will make 514 compulsory redundancies, while 782 others would take voluntary redundancy. In August, that has just passed. However, an additional 162 roles were axed as the National Trust stopped or deferred £124 million of projects, which in total makes 1,458 job losses at the charity linked to the coronavirus pandemic. The cuts should help the trust make some £59 million savings a year. Further £41 million in annual costs will be saved in areas such as travel, office expenses and marketing overheads. This is a very painful time for some organisations, businesses and communities, said National Trust Director General Hilary McGrady. No leader wants to be forced into announcing any redundancies, but coronavirus means we simply have no other choice if we want to give the charity a sustainable future. The National Trust was founded 125 years ago and manages countryside, coastline, historic monuments and houses across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. More than 3 months of lockdown earlier this year forced many sites to close to visitors, and the organisation was forced to freeze recruitment and dip into its reserves. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Ashley. We know the National Trust is very important, but have they done anything recently to support their businesses to help them out?
Yes, well, the National Trust put forth a recruitment squeeze. They are also making use of the emergency coronavirus loan from the Bank of England, as well as the government support. These have helped lower the financial impact, but in the short term, however, with the long-term implications of social distancing, meant that the National Trust had to do a complete overview of everything, most especially for their spending. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for that report again this week. Hope to see you again next week.
Thank you for having me, Giancarlo. I'm Ashley Spiritu, EBC London correspondent, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, it's time for another break now, but please come back for more ENI, UK and Europe edition.
Abangan niyo po ako and the rest of the Barkada and your favorite OPM artists on Letters and Music. Prime time na! Mula Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. only on Net25. See you!
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe edition. Now for some interesting stories from around Europe this week. One of the consequences of the current pandemic is the loss of livelihood. In Barcelona, Spain, some Filipinos have found a way of making a living and to provide for their own families. Lynn Tumpaga Diaz reports.
Spain is one of the most hard-hit countries in Europe affected by COVID-19 crisis. Let us find out how Filipinos in Barcelona, Spain cope with the financial challenges they are facing in times of pandemic. The country's tourism was affected due to lockdown and travel restrictions. Many Filipinos lost their job, while other employees were given lesser working hours. In spite of these financial challenges that they are facing, many of our fellow Filipinos are able to survive by having home-based business or online business. Most of these products such as alcohol, hand sanitizers, beauty products, and washable face masks were sold online.
Sa panahon ito ng pandemic, itong crisis na ito sa buong mundo dahil sa COVID-19 ay talagang alam natin na lahat ng bansa na apektado talaga sa ganitong pandemic. At alam natin na sa mga stores ay marami nagsara, maraming nag-close because of lockdown. Pero sa part namin, bilang isang onliners, home-based business, yung ating online business, ay malaking naitulong ito. Lalo na po yung aming beauty products na nasa online lang at nakikita nila, nag-order sila at deliver. So, malaking tulong. At linggo-linggo, hindi po nawala ng sales. At lalo na yung aming hand sanitizer na pinopromote din dahil itong hand sanitizer napapanahon talaga dahil sa ganitong pandemic. Kaya isibiruin nyo, isang linggo lang namin ay nakapag-sold out kami ng mahigit 50. So sa loob ng 3 weeks ay na-sold namin ay 150 bottles sa hand sanitizer. Kaya tuloy-tuloy lang kami sa pagpopromote sa social media, sa Facebook, lalo na sa Instagram. At sinishare namin sa mga kaibigan namin itong home-based business. Kasi lalo na kitang-kita naman namin yung tulong niya sa ganitong panahon ng pandemic.
Malaki po ang naitulong ng aking home-based business, lalo na po sa panahon ng pandemya. Kasi sa pamamagitan po ng mga paggawa ng aking mga homemade face mask, ay nagkaroon po ako ng extra income para po sa mga pangangailangan namin sa araw-araw po. At pinaka-importante po sa lahat, ay naibigay ko po yung mga pangangailangan ng aking mga anak sa pamamagitan po ng mga paggawa po ng mga face mask.
Filipinos are known for being resourceful and resilient. That is why even in times of pandemic, Filipinos can still survive. Reporting for Eagle News International, I am Ling Bautista Tumbaga Diaz, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you so much for your report in EBC Spain. We now go to our young members of the Iglesia de Cristo Church of Christ from different countries in Europe, how they showed their love for music through an online concert. With us today, from Geneva, Switzerland, is Mian Glauser. Hello, Mian.
Hello, Giancarlo. Thank you. People love music because they say it evokes emotion and is also part of their daily life and culture. It is as well a good way to bring people together, especially when the same values they share are conveyed through the music or song. Despite the pandemic, young members in the Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ were able to share the love for music by holding a concert from home through video conferencing in the countries of Belgium, France, Monaco, and Switzerland. Children from each congregation of these countries performed songs produced in the Church of Christ. Some songs were in English, some in Tagalog, and others in French. However, they were not the only ones who enjoyed the concert. Their talent also brought smiles to other members of different ages who watched them performing, especially their parents and their older brothers and sisters, who were very proud of them. After each performance, the young performers were also able to share how they have been spending the past few months at home, how they helped their parents around the house, and they have been productive during the current situation. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Mian. It looks like the children and the parents were having a lot of fun. But can we ask, how was this concert made possible when the children weren't allowed to perform physically together because of the current pandemic?
Well, Giancarlo, the parents of participating children were asked to help in the preparation of the concert. They had to record the voices of their children and film them. Then all videos were put together to form a musical video clip. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you for your report today, Mian.
Thank you for having me, Giancarlo. I'm Mian Glauser reporting from the Geneva, Switzerland Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
For our ABC Sports Report today, we have Lewis Hamilton equaling Michael Schumacher's record of 91 Formula One Grand Prix wins with a measured triumph at the Eiffel Grand Prix. After he completed his 7th win of the season, Lewis Hamilton was surprised to be greeted by Mick Schumacher, the son of the German 7-time champion. Mick presented a red driver's helmet, his father's career collection, to Lewis Hamilton. "Congratulations on a great achievement," said Schumacher, a rising star himself who is leading in the Formula 2 series. Clearly moved, Hamilton struggled for words. "Thank you so much," he said. "It's such an honor. I don't know what to say. When you grow up watching someone and idolizing them, seeing his dominance for so long, I didn't think I ever imagined I would be near him in terms of records, so it's an incredible honor." Taking full advantage of his teammate and pole sitter Valtteri Bottas' early retirement from the Grand Prix with engine problems, the runaway series leader and 6-time champion drove a well-judged race to claim his landmark victory on a circuit where Michael Schumacher, himself a 7-time champion, won the race 5 times. Lewis Hamilton came home 4.5 seconds ahead of the Red Bull's Max Verstappen to take his 2nd Nürburgring victory of his career. The other was when he was racing for McLaren in 2011. Daniel Ricciardo was 3rd with Renault. Hamilton teammate Valtteri Bottas' bad luck almost certainly ended his own title bid, as Hamilton moved now 69 points clear at the top of the Drivers' Championship. But Hamilton was quick to warn of the Red Bull's threat. "Red Bull have a great car, and Max is so impressive," he said. "It's going to be close till the end of the season and into the next one. The closest race between us is coming over the next 12 months." We will continue to keep an eye out on Great Britain's Lewis Hamilton for the rest of this Formula One season as he draws closer to yet another World Championship. We'll end today's show once again with our view from a window. And now we get to see one of the largest seaports of Germany, the port of Hamburg, also known as the Gate to the World, because it connects 178 countries through its port. The port is over 7,200 acres wide, sees around 10,000 ships per year, including container ships that can measure up to 400 meters long. Here you get to not only see boats and ships from afar, but also what's inside them, like various museum ships. The port of Hamburg is filled with a lot of history, accompanied by many stories of sailors and merchants, courtesy of Eva Marie Krauser from our EBC Germany Bureau. Thank you for this wonderful view. Okay, that's it for this week. Stay safe and keep positive as we continue to bring you more stories next week from around the United Kingdom and Europe. I'm Jakarta Matera, and we live in interesting times.